Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Welcome back to Gulfstream today. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Andy Serling, and very happy New Year from all of us to all of you who are watching.
Absolutely. Happy New Year. And what better way to start the new year with racing right after noon, halfway through the day, and we'll be racing.
And an early post time indeed, so we get to start early as well. Once again, that early post time, 12:05, so that makes us wake up a little bit earlier and get right to the action as well.
Absolutely. But if you're waking up and going to the racetrack, it doesn't really matter. It's good.
It doesn't matter at all. Well, let's hope we have a little bit of New Year's success here. We'll get right into the card race, we'll get into our carryover. Sorry, I'm trying to jump the gun here. There's rolling super high five here. We do have a carryover this afternoon to start race one off with. $4,271 is the carryover. That also does kick off the 50-cent early pick five. As we get to later in the afternoon card, race six does start. The 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6, we do have a carryover of over 61,000, and the race 7 does start the 50-cent late Pick 5 here as well. So, again, let's get right to it. We do have a nice carryover in that rolling super high 5, and it's kind of a tricky race here to start the day off. We're going out to the main track at 6 furlongs for this 30,000 non-winners of two lifetime.
Yeah, and we're going to show a replay of actually the last race that a lot of these horses are coming out of. And the horse that you really have to pay attention to is the five horse from that race, but the three today, and that's Demand. Because Demand, who's had a succession of low percentage riders, I don't even know if this horse had any real trouble at the start. Watching the head on it, just feels like the rider kind of panicked and completely took the horse out of the race. Now, fortunately for Demand, there was somewhat of a contentious pace up front, and I know that he's 1 for 15. He hung a little bit, but I thought with the trouble, the wide move, this horse ran very well. I have a question for you besides your feelings on the trip, Gabby. Did you think the rail was bad that day? I know that Mike Welsh did. I was reading him writing about it in DRF.
Perhaps not. I mean, we did see the one horse kind of get into position there that in this race, and obviously he kind of went backwards there. But again, you look at I'm focusing on the one Make My Day in here because this is who I actually opt for on top, because I thought he was kind of aggressively ridden early to try to get into position where necessarily he didn't really need to be that close that early, and essentially he just kind of gives up in that event, has to make another move and just finishes a few lengths behind the pace. I think today with a better post position, the 4, I actually thought this was a very good race for the one Make My Day, all considering he was taken out of his comfort zone.
Okay, we will have to agree to disagree. I thought he ran a similar race to what he's run before. I don't disagree that he was in a tough position early. I think if you feel like the rail was bad, and I just had trouble because there weren't that many dirt races. I also think it rained somewhat later in the day. It may have changed the racetrack a bit. Big Distinction is the one you might be interested in because he's the one that was towards the inside the whole way. I have trouble believing he could have run that race. He got the fastest buyer speed figure he's ever gotten. If you think the rail was bad, do you really think it's possible that he should have run, 10 or more points faster? And for me, I'm going to hope that Demand, with a switch to Joe Bravo today, just is getting a more professional ride and is in the race earlier. It's a tricky race. We're taking different horses out of the same race.
It was a similar case yesterday as well, and some of the horses that were coming out of the Super See-Me race ran well. Some of them didn't. So again, you have to trip handicap this. I do like the fact that Joe Bravo gets to the 3 Demand. That's always a feather in the cap here. But the 4 Make My Day, again, we'll see how it pans out, but I do like that better post position here this afternoon. We'll move on to the second race, a maiden $16,000 event, 5 furlongs on the turf course, and we do have a couple of scratches in here, the 2 and the 7 in this event. And taking a look at this race as well, I thought the 5 Shutter Shock was kind of interesting. I believe we have a replay on the 5 Shutter Shock's last race.
Well, I mean, Shutter Shock to me is probably, I can't believe Shutter Shock won't be an overwhelming favorite in this race, because you're talking about a horse that the last time it ran a turf sprint, ran in New York, got beaten a half length in a maiden 40,000 claimer with a 73 buyer figure. I'm watching the race. I wanted to watch the replay because I made a huge bet on Shutter Shock, and I love reliving the pain. I mean, there's nothing better than reliving that pain from 6 months ago at Belmont. The problem with this horse is I'm not familiar with the trainer, who's just under a 10% trainer. Where has this horse been, who seems to run by appointment only? A huge layoff before this race, another layoff here. I think this horse actually ran better than it looks in that July 22nd race at Saratoga. So, in my opinion, this is a superior animal to the ones he faces. The problem is, can you trust this horse at all?
I think you can semi-trust him, but I'm not trusting him as a win proposition. The connections, I'm not too familiar with as well, but you also have to proceed with caution when you get a lightly raced 7-year-old as well.
I agree. This is a horse, 7 years, as you say, just obviously just turned it. So there's a real question of what you're going to get with this horse. I had liked the 7 Arcat Daddy as my backup, who I thought would be the speed. I wasn't left with any real alternatives in here. The 9-star Lutenot seems to be better in sprints, but I'm hoping the 5 shows up. You are going to keep giving Wind Warning another chance.
I'm going to keep giving him a chance, trying to get to a firm ground here this afternoon. On the drop-in class, that was an absolutely horrible performance. I do agree. But what really is he facing here once again this afternoon?
I hear you. You know, the problem I have with this horse is that I thought he couldn't lose on September 6th. And okay, they were better horses than these, and it wasn't a particularly quick pace that day. Last time out, though, he was just atrocious.
Bad.
And, I mean, I guess he could win this race. At the end of the day, this comes down to how you feel about the 5. The 5 shows up, he's going to win, because it's very hard to take Kirky's Dream as your other horse. The 4, this is an 0 for 16.
And there's just really no follow-through. I mean, they've tried different strategies with him. He's been capable of coming off the pace and stalking the pace. Last time out, the last 3 couple of starts, actually went to the lead, dueled early, and there's just really no follow-through, and it's really hard to take a horse like this on top.
Especially short losses at short prices.
We'll take a look at race 3 on the card, maiden 12,500 event, going 1-turn mile on the main track. And the 2 Don's Girl, I tried to stick with her last time out, had to go against her once again today. I put her in second because that's kind of where I think she'll finish.
Yeah, this race is a nightmare because you're right. I mean, Don's Girl is the horse to beat, but you want to try to beat a horse that's 1 for 10, going to be a short price, and you and I have come up with different alternatives. Neither one of us is standing on particularly solid ground.
No, absolutely not. And Don's Girl, like you said, is the horse to beat. She should be able to be the fastest horse in the race, and yes, she did get caught against a better horse last time out. Panetta was a favorite, dropping in from maiden $25,000 company, but Don's Girl had back class as well, kind of going into the race. So it's a tough sell to take the 2 Don's Girl. I land on the 3 Ashipoo, who does pick up Louis Saez for Marcus Vitale. A decent second last time out. Again, I'm grasping at straws. I'm just thinking that they're going to be aggressive with her now with added distance. Yeah. And can she go the 1-turn mile is the big question, but at least she'll be close to the pace and maybe gain a new level of confidence on the lead.
I wish Vitale had better stats stretching out. I didn't put them up because I thought the horse would be a mid-priced horse. You don't want to put negative stats up to knock a horse that's going to be a reasonable price. And obviously, if that horse stretches out, it can win. Listen, my pick, Nina, is the kind of horse that you just bet on and close your eyes. Nina's coming out of a horrendous maiden race that was won by a 1 to 5 horse coming from down here from Canada. But you know what? Maybe it was an illusion, but this horse was out in the middle of the racetrack and just looked like the kind of horse that didn't know what it was doing, and maybe stretching out to mile would be more effective. I'm not standing on solid ground, but I had to come up with somebody.
All right, we'll go on to the. With that said, we'll move on to the.
And
fourth
I will
race.
bet, Anina. I will lose my money on this horse.
All right, well, we'll see. Starter allowance optional claimer is the 4th race here, going out to the turf course at a mile, and a couple of scratches in here, including my top selection here, the 9 Inspire Courage. So it kind of leaves you going back to the drawing board here. The 10 7th Fleet Humor is going to be my top selection here from the outside. Gets Javier Castellano. I didn't think was a bad performance last time out as well. We saw some decent horses, and I remember handicapping the race, the Imposter. I kind of like the Imposter. I know you're not a fan.
And I told you he had no chance. It was funny when he won, because it was right after I was here. When he won, I went,
no chance.
I told Gabby that horse had no chance. Any horse that lost to the Imposter is going to beat me for the rest of my life.
Absolutely, and this perhaps is one of them. Now, it does draw to the outside, but again, I thought put in a pretty good performance over that good going. Now it gets stretched back out to the mile. I don't think he necessarily needed to be that far off the pace there, but still a well-timed move by Javier, and perhaps can get into a better position early. You land on the 5 Oklahoma Den.
Well, I scratch into him, and we'll take a look at Oklahoma Den's last race, where, you know, I thought he finished second to a horse that, a Todd horse that was a short price, and I just feel like the 9 was our wise guy horse in this race on the Mike Maker angle. After him, I think it's just handicapping. Now, listen, just handicapping is fine, but to me, Oklahoma Den for Chuck Simon just seemed like a logical horse that consistently runs, at least at Gulfstream, has run fast enough races to win here. I didn't have a strong opinion outside, and you see the horse just getting nailed by Todd's horse outside of him. You know, Crown the Kitten, who's going to take a lot of money in here, had a really negative trainer stat on Wesley Ward for what it's worth. His numbers off of wins in turf routes are extremely weak. He's just 5 for 81 over 5 years, the 40-cent ROI, and I think like 48%, like half of these horses were 5-1 or lower, and he's underperformed. And his last race was an extremely hungry field with a fast pace that collapsed. And I'm kind of a Mark My Style fan, and maybe I'm bitter because I bet him that day at a price, but I thought it was a very weak field. And these are just better horses, like the 7 Stock. They're better horses, the 8 Roll on the Navajo.
I agree with you. You're not going to get much value on that horse whatsoever, and I do think he's going to be overbet. You always have to proceed with caution a little bit when a horse finally gets up for the win against a 6-horse field or 5 other horses in that race. I don't think it was strong by any means, too, so I think you and I both kind of agree to try to beat him in here.
We'll see.
We'll go on to the 5th race here, 6,250 dual condition claiming event going to the main track at the 1-turn mile. And another interesting race here, the 3, the Sun Drop Kid for Kathleen O'Connell, has been very formful this year here alone. So essentially, I do land on him as the top selection, but you have to like the 10, Renombre, for first off the claim for trainer Michael Petra.
Yeah, you know, we didn't show my early pick 5 ticket. Why don't we see if we can put that up now? And I agree on using a bunch of horses here. If we have that pick 5 ticket, I want to use 4 horses if I could come alive here, the 3, 5, 9, and 10. Maybe we actually don't have that statistic, that ticket. There it is. 3, 5, 6 to start it out. 5, 9, 2, 5, 5, 7, 8, 2, 3, 5, 9, 10. I felt like this was a race for multi-race sequence. It doesn't fall into the Rainbow 6, but it's pick 5, pick 4s. You want to get alive to a bunch of horses because the Sundrop Kid is sort of the logical horse. World Changer, you have to respect the claim by Jamie Ness, who has big numbers. And the 10, Renombre, this is a horse that has back class, and when trainers and owners that are very sharp at claiming win with horses at better prices, they're usually horses that have some back talent that can win the race, and they try to get it back there. And as you can see, we have a trainer stat. Renombre for Michael Petra, over the last year, claiming horses on the dirt at Gulfstream, these are staggering numbers. I know the horses are paying $5.20, but at least in this case, you've got a horse that's not going to be 8 to 5.
Absolutely. I think you're getting some decent value on this horse. The trainer does extremely well first off the claim, and not to mention this horse clearly does a little bit better with a little bit of added distance, and I like the fact that obviously he stays to the 1-turn mile. The connections are aggressive with him, keeping him at this lower level claiming rate stage here. And now, looking at this race as well, he had really no shot to win last time out, getting squeezed back at the start, especially sprinting 6 furlongs as well. He's a horse who hasn't shown a liking for kind of an off track as well. So you have to like him for several different reasons, but you also have to like the Sundrop Kid for several different reasons, including consistency here.
Hey, the horse is just in good form, and the races are fast. And the Sundrop Kid is the perfect horse to use because it's the logical horse, and then you try to fill it in with others.
And be creative, perhaps. Right. With that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. We do have a carryover today, just over $61,000 right after this. Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Gabby Gaudet alongside Andy Serling as we take a look at the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Does start in race 6 on today's 11-race program. We have 11 races today, tomorrow, and Sunday, and an early post, so do take note of that as well. We'll take a look at the ticket here. I had a tough time handicapping the sequence as well, using 3 horses in the first leg of the sequence, 4 in race 7, using actually 4 and 3 in several legs of the sequence, but I do like one horse today, Aix-en-Provence. We'll get to her a little bit later, but it's a very bold single. It's a tough race indeed, but you have to find one somewhere because some of the other races are just too tough to find singles in. 86.40 is the ticket, so we'll take a look at the race that does kick off the sequence, and it's the the first leg of the sequence here. We'll take a look at it. Maiden special weight going a mile and 7/16 out on the turf course.
I think that you and I have gone in a sort of more logical spot here in situation. Maybe distance will be a big factor here. I'm hoping the switch to John Velasquez on Tail of Fancy will get a slightly more aggressive ride and have this horse well placed. I mean, it looks like Rediscover is going to lead, but sitting second, and it feels like John's a better fit for a horse that's just consistently run faster races. It is a question of whether or not this horse is going to be effective at a mile and 7/16.
Well, the interesting thing about this race, too, is I couldn't find a legitimate amount of pace. Obviously, Rediscover is the speed going to the turf, obviously, and getting much more at a distance. But can he kind of have longevity with that speed is my question. So it could set up for some of these horses who are kind of closing. Blinkers do go on. This 2 Son of Oahu, do take note of that. But the 3 America's Kitten, I thought was interesting. I thought put in really 2 solid performances. Last time out was okay, was actually the beaten favorite 2 starts back. But I'm interested. I think this horse can definitely get the distance, and obviously he's getting back to a firmer course. And I think in his previous races, it looks like he got over them a little bit better.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine in here. And the Aqueduct course in the beginning of December is a very goofy course and tough to handle. And that race was dominated on the front end. And Red Guard, we lost 2 packs pretty good. He's kind of a money burner for Chad. On the other hand, he has faced some legitimate horses, and he had trouble in late August at Saratoga in that race. Alcazar de Maram from Maram, who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly race for Chad, that's a horse that might appreciate the distance here. The weird horse in here is the 7 Neutron Star, but it did feel to me like Kieran McLaughlin must have just gotten this horse because 2 weeks ago it was working at Penn National.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I left that horse off the ticket, but again, you look at the back races going around of ground on the turf, is going to have to take a step up in class to beat this company.
I agree, but at least last time in a weird race, a mile and 7/8 up at Woodbine, the horse did run its best race, so maybe the distance will help.
It's kind of a tricky maiden special weight, to be honest.
Well,
and
the distance especially.
The distance is very tricky, and the pace is kind of tricky, whether or not Rediscover is going to be the lone lead and go gate to wire, can handle the distance, or is it going to set up for some of the stalkers? So, again, I think that's kind of a tricky race to kick off the pick 6 as well.
I agree.
And moving on to the 7th race, it does kick off the late 50-cent pick 5 furlongs on the turf, and I believe you do have a little ticket.
I do have a big ticket here, actually. I am going to be using your horse. I will not be singling Aix-en-Provence, but I'm using that horse with the other Joe Orsino horse. 3-7-10 with 6-10 with 1-7-10 with 9-10-14 with 1-8. And, this is a race where I think I'm not sure how you saw it. I didn't get a chance to see your picks, but felt to me like horses like the 3, 10, 11 were the more logical types in here. These are tough races. I took a shot with the 7 Go S on top, the kind of horse I'm always going to bet a few dollars on. We have a stat for George Weaver. It's not a super high percentage. It's almost 20%. When he's a trainer change on the turf, a trainer switch, not a claim, he's 7 for 36 with a 339 ROI. And, I just respect George. I know he sort of points for Saratoga in some ways more, but this is a horse that once again has back form that can win this race, and it'll be a bit of a price, and I'll use him with the logicals.
And my only question is, he's obviously been off since early October, and he faced pretty decent company in the past under Tammy Dominowski, who does a fantastic job at Arlington. And now all of a sudden coming off the layoff takes an immediate drop in class to 16,000. I don't know if that's really a vote of confident type of move.
It's not, but this is a horse that ran for a quarter in the past, so I think they're trying to find a spot where it can win. I'm not in love with this horse. I just think she'll be at square enough price, and as races it can win. And I wasn't thrilled with the logicals. Like, I don't like the 11. Service has bad numbers going allowance to claiming races, and I felt like the 3 and 10 can win, but they don't have to win.
I also think the speed, the pace of this race is also kind of interesting. Deterrent to the outside, I think, has to go from that outside post position. Goesi has shown speed in the past as well, and then you have a horse like the 2 Dr. J Dub, who draws a very good post towards the inside, who should show speed as well. They're kind of equivalent in that as well.
Well, where's the Cat and the Rail can go as well, and even Great Attack has speed. So it's not projected to be a super fast pace. I think there's enough horses to go that it's going to be at least honest.
I think it's going to be honest as well. We could just have a cluster of horses too. That's why I'm kind of going towards horses who have that capability of maybe stalking from off the pace, like the 10 Starship Wildcat, who should be able to stalk here and has been very consistent and competitive against decent company. And the 3 Drago's Best. This is a horse for trainer Jamie Ness, who took a drop in class last time out and was beaten by the longest price on the board, Iruna Latte. But that said, Iruna Latte got an absolute dream setup. Drago's Best kind of put in the dirty work.
No, I have no argument with any of that. Starship Wildcat won with Andre Worry. If you win with Andre Worry and you get Javier Castellano, you've got to be tough.
Well, we'll take a look at the 8th race, the starter optional claiming event, 6 furlongs onto the main track. And this is where the single comes into play. And I think it's kind of a bold single because really anybody else could beat her, but I'm banking on her primarily because I think she's a much better one-run sprinter. The mile was a little bit too far for her last time out, and now on the cut back to 6 furlongs, this is in her wheelhouse.
I also think she's going to appreciate the fast track, too. I mean, you and I are on the same page with this horse. We liked her last time, we were wrong, but I think she was hindered by the distance in the racetrack. Interestingly enough, and we'll put up a trainer stat that we have for Joe Orsino. He's got 2 in here. Not only Ace in Provence is going to be a shorter price, but the 6 Oasis in Midnight, who has back races that are pretty good. He's turned horses back in distance from routes to sprints, if we could get that trainer stat up. He's 6 for 15 at Gulfstream Park over the last 5 years with a huge ROI. So it seems like something that he's kind of been successful doing here. And you've got 2 for the price of 1. I'm going to use both of them.
That's a good way to go as well. The 6 Oasis at Midnight is an interesting...
Not for the price of 1, sorry.
The 10 X in Provence. So again, she's capable of beating solid allowance company, 2 other than company, sprinting on the main track as well. And I think she should be able to get a decent pace in front of her as well. We have the likes of the 8 Scuba Sue in here, who should be very forwardly placed. My only concern about Scuba Sue is, can she get out there by herself?
I agree. Timeform US had this as a pace favoring horses towards the front. I don't agree. I thought there was enough pace in here as well. We'll see.
Well, you have Miss Wilby in there as well, so.
I agree. We'll see.
All right, race 9 on the card, an open 6,250 claimer, mile on the main track as well. And the 7 Chillin' Dillon looks to be the horse to beat, coming out of claiming Crown Day and coming back to a fast track. And that's kind of the direction I go in, primarily because I think he's faced 2 very tough races in the past 2. And he's perfectly capable of winning this race, but is he a cinch? Probably not. No,
but I agree with you. I just think he's the horse to beat for all the points you've made. I mean, this is a race that projects to have a fast pace. It's supposed to be honest, and I'm going to 2 closers. I have no argument with Chillin' Dillon, but I'm hoping El Gran Joyful, another horse who just might be able to get more pace than he got last time out in a race that just didn't really work for his running style. And so I'm hoping he's just a little bit better price and he'll benefit from the pace. Nothing particularly clever. I don't think he's as likely to win as the 7, but I'm hoping his price compensates.
Yeah, and he very well could. This is a horse who I believe I threw into the multi-race sequences. Yes, I threw him in because the only thing is this his best track? He is only 2-time winner out of 20 starts here at Gulfstream, but he should be able to get a decent setup. The horse who I liked last time, the 3 Go Duke Go, I'm leaving out, so you know what that means. He's going to wind up in the winner's circle.
Well, you know, I have a lot of trouble taking this horse, and it's not like the trainer has great numbers off the claim. They're okay. The horse you have second, Bellamy Brew. I mean, what is he going to do in here? Well, I would do the same thing I would have done with him last time, which is completely pitch him. David Jacobson, I know he won that stake with Stall Walking Dude on a wet track here on the Claiming Crown, but we pointed out that day he's had no success down here whatsoever. Bellamy Brew, if he resurrects him and he runs well, going a mile with his other speed in this race, I've got to lose.
But David Jacobson is a case in point as well, with horses who just come off of horrible races last time out. A lot of the time they show up and you get a bit more of a decent price. This horse, if he shows speed again today and there's any bit of form reversal, I think he could hit the board. The 10 Trier is another one who gets back to the main track, and the last race on the main track actually was quite decent, a runaway winner there against open 10,000 claimers.
I agree. That's why I've got him 3rd.
All right, we'll move on to the 10th race, the first half of the late daily double allowance optional claiming event, 7.5 furlongs out on the turf course. And I think this is one of my more favorite races on the day. We have the likes of the 9 Lady Zuzu coming back to the races for Bill Mott. I believe she was entered in opening weekend but rained off the turf. What do you do with her? Obviously, she's got the back class. I'm going to try to beat her with kind of an oddball horse, but the 14 Enthusiastic Gal, she's definitely a viable option in here.
Yeah, let's start, though, with Lady Zuzu and just go over her for a second. She's projected to be the speed the speed of the speed in a fast-paced race. And I just wonder if Mott's going to try to get her to rate, and if she's ever going to be able to rate. She didn't really run that well in Indiana Grand. It looks on paper like she ran better than she did, and she had no chance in the Pebbles last time. And has she found a race that she's better than these horses? Is it a confidence-boosting race, perhaps? I don't trust her either, but you have to use her. I think your horse is very dangerous. We'll show Enthusiastic Gal winning 2 races back at Belmont. She was very impressive. I know this was a maiden 75, but the second horse was a heavy favorite. I think it was Todd Pletcher, and she buried them. Last time out, those are significantly more accomplished horses to run against the non-winners of 1. She didn't have the best of trips. Not that she had a bad trip. Gets Javier, and this is a switch to Shug McGay I can't ignore, and I'm hoping that there's enough pace she can get position from the outside post. Nobody better doing that than Javier, and I'll use her on top. But I greatly respect, Gabby, the horse that you have on top, Silvery Starlet.
Well, quickly going back to the 4 Enthusiastic Gal as well. Last time out, when she did face winners for the first time, again, it was a short field. It looked almost as if she broke very sharply, and then Jose Lescano kind of took her back. She checked early, and it almost she wasn't naturally fitting the flow of the race, whereas today I think she's going to get more pace to run behind. Yes, she has to break from the outside, which is going to be really tough, but she gets Javier Gasolano in the saddle to kind of lead her in the right way. And again, odd things happen in short fields like that in terms of pace and just the overall outcome and setup of the race. So I can't really hold her last race against her too much.
I don't think she ran badly, to be honest. I'm not sure she didn't actually run a little bit better than she ran when she won her maiden race. The competition was just tougher. Not the competition is so easy in this race, but at least the flow of the race may be better for her. And we know Javier's a great rider, but there's no rider better than him at getting position from outside post. Mm-hmm. He understands how important it is, and even if he has to sort of break him a little slowly and get him over there, he'll do what it takes. Silvery Starlet, I wish Silvery Starlet wasn't a newly turned 6-year-old.
I know. It's tough, but I thought her races back in the beginning of this year the company and visually were very, very strong. And if she's at all ready off the layoff, I think she's going to be a force to be reckoned with, and you're going to get a decent price. And looking at some statistics for Ralph Nix, I looked this stat up actually this morning, 180-day layoff on the turf with 13 horses, about 23%, but finishes pretty decently in the money as well and a positive ROI. So he can get horses ready off the layoff, but as you said, she just ticked over to 6 years old, and she might need to blow some of the rust off of her wheels.
Yeah, I like the trainer change to Ralph Nix, so I think there's a lot. Listen, I've got her in the mix. I'm going to use her. Hopefully if I'm alive in the multis, I'll have her on my tickets.
Lady Zuzu, again, she is finding a class relief here, but I just couldn't take anything from the Pebbles last time out. I didn't think it was a strong race. Yes, she's shown the tendency to maybe lose some of her early speed in the past couple of starts, but again, I think she's going to be, I don't know, she's kind of an untrustworthy horse in here.
Not to belabor the point as we're running out of time, but this is a horse that has a lot of talent that Wayne Lucas may have run a little aggressively, and the feeling is that Mott will take more time with her and maybe get her back to that. If he can, she's probably too good for these horses, but it's not going to be easy. He wasn't handed an easy situation.
Absolutely. The 11th and final race on the card is 16,000 conditional claimer, 7.5 furlongs on the turf, and there are multiple horses, in my opinion, that could win this race, and one of them is your 8, actually, but I landed on the 10, Pinsy's Prize. Again, multiple different ways to go. How did you see this race in terms of the pick 5?
I'm going to try to get here and use the 1 and 8. The 10 would have been my third use in here. I'm just not going to spend that kind of money on the tickets here. But the 8 just ran against much better horses last time. Chased a speed horse that finished third in there, and she even collapsed a little bit late. This is a more realistic spot for Peter Walder. She's second off a layoff. There's nothing clever about her. I thought the 1 was fine. This trainer's done well off claims, and I think that you and I have sort of logical horses covered. At least I do. You've got a little goofier in second and third.
Yeah, I got a little twitch, primarily because I'm wondering if that one race was kind of a fluke. Her lone turf sprint at Gulfstream Park West, it was a good going, and obviously she's not going to get those conditions today. It wasn't an 8-horse field, but I like the fact that she kind of rated early, and then she kind of drove home clear under Luca Panici. Dave Fox obviously tried to run this filly on the turf last time out. It was rained off, so perhaps he thinks that she's just found a new surface, and she could be kind of a flyer in the race.
she's going to have to run better than she did to win her turf race, but as you say, 1 for 1.
All right, we'll take that's a wrap for us. Races 1 through 11. I'm actually very impressed and surprised that we finished on time.
We tried very, very hard because we know Larry's standing there and he's getting very edgy, and we don't want Larry to get edgy on New Year's Day.
Not on New Year's Day. I see it in his face.
Can
Okay,
tell.
with that said, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to handicap the first race on the card and races 1 through 11 as well. Once again, to carry over in the Rainbow Pick 6 that starts in the 6th race on this 11 race program. Larry Comas will be back up shortly with scratches and changes. Best of luck on today's program.